Okay, well, we're back. We are back. We're back. We're back. I'm not sure where we left off. Our system kicked us out here, and
Oh,
we're hoping
wow.
that some folks will tune back into us right here. So here we go. I'm not sure, Dr. Lindsay. Dr. Doe was sharing with us, and we know that she's going to have to leave shortly about
Right.
um, what mental health meant. And then I know that you posed a question to her, and I think that's where we
Mhm.
got left off, got cut off.
The-
So
the-
if you can
okay.
repeat the question that you had asked her.
Okay. Let's see. Okay. Now, I asked her the question about, okay, I'm not my glasses. I asked her the question, what are some of the misconceptions about mental health within the religious community? And how can we work to overcome them? That was one of the issues that she and I were bantering over, that church tends to uh, 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 brush mental health under the rug. They say that's not a problem. If you have that problem, then you got to question your faith in God. Do you have a real relationship with God? And so
Yeah.
I wanted to ask her, what
So
what are some of the
so
misconceptions?
just to jump back in with that,
Yeah.
so some of the misconception were the fact that, you know, stating that a person is weak in their faith,
Right.
because they're experiencing mental health, or spiritual deficiency,
Right.
you're
Right.
not going to church a lot, or you're not really praying a lot, or they're failing when it comes to their moral compass, and stuff. Those are some of the things, just the leading, the shame and the
Right.
reluctance to seek help because of some of those issues
Yes.
when it comes to the misconception, as far as in the religious community. And this is where we continue on with indicating as to why it's important for the religious community to openly have a discussion about mental health,
Mhm.
and not necessarily make a person feel ashamed, take away the stigma of mental health,
Mhm.
kind of connecting it similar to your physical health. Some of the examples that I used was, if you had diabetes and you were getting treatment, insulin treatment, you're not going to say, okay, because I'm praying to God, I'm not going to take my insulin. In addition to praying to God to heal you from diabetes, you're still going to do your part and hope that you get healed from it, that eventually that you won't have to, hopefully treatment leads to the complete healing. And mental health should be looked at in the same manner, because it is complex, it's real. And oftentimes people put a shame to it. And especially within the Black community, we have the tendency to say, oh, no, something is wrong with that person. But it truly is a real medical issue that needs to be addressed just on the mental aspect and not more so on the physical. But again, depending on the individual, mental health can affect not only the mental, but it can also affect the physical,
That's
so it does varies. So it's very important that the religious community have that open dialogue and that communication, because we do know in the Black community we listen to our church leaders,
Mhm.
and
Mhm.
sometimes more so than your doctors. So the
Right.
two should be kind of interconnected when you're dealing with your physical and
That's
mental health.
uh-huh. Uh-huh. I like that. That's a good topic. Interconnected. Yeah. Because a lot of
Yeah,
people try to force it.
Dr. Lindsay, that
Mhm.
reminds me. Yeah, go ahead, Dr.
Mhm. No, no, you had a
Lindsay.
point. Yeah. Hmm.
I was thinking as Dr. Doe was Yeah, I was thinking as Dr. Doe was speaking, sometimes there may be a deliverance service or whatever going on in the church, and you're
Right.
looking at a person that's
Right.
exhibiting certain behaviors, and a
Right.
lot of times we tend to think that they're possessed by the devil, and
Double.
we're
Right.
trying to deliver the person may just be type of issue that they're
Hmm.
encountering at that time. Some of the additional symptoms of mental as relates to some of those different categories be?
Mhm. And one that was a good point. And one other point I pinged on with Dr. Doa is that we always talk about safe space, especially the religious leaders. You know that we're in that leadership role, and we said, oh, we need to create a safe space for people. But if you're only talking to one or two people, and you have a congregation of 500 people, how do you create that safe space when you're not telling the whole congregation, look, we mental health problems are an issue, and we need to try to make this a safe space so that people can feel free to open up, and they don't have, like you said, they don't have that stigma that
Exactly.
yeah, something's wrong with her, something definitely wrong with him.
Yeah.
So and that's how I think the healing and help comes when people feel comfortable to talk to you about it. Well, this is my issue. And you said, you made a good point. Communication above all. If you can start talking about stuff,
Yep.
that's part of the problem. That's part of
Yep.
the solution. If you're talking about it, and that has always been an issue with me. We always talk about we have a safe space, but I'm saying, is it really safe?
Exactly.
Can people open up to you or me, and we don't take it home and say, well, you know what's wrong with sister?
Exactly.
And so that's an issue that I guess the religious community has to work on harder.
Yeah. In addition to adding a safe space, we have to have a non-judgmental space.
Yes, I like that.
Because a non-judgmental space allow a person to be able to be forthcoming in what they're dealing with. Because in doing so, you're not only tackling the physical, but you're tackling the mental health aspect of it. Because a person having psychological safety is able to come with you with everything. And in coming to you with everything, you are able to hear, okay, this is what's going on physically, medically, and this is what's going on mentally. And this is what's going on in my personal life. Because oftentimes in the church community, we're able to go to the pastors about what's going on in our personal life.
Right.
Whether it's with mom, dad, husband, wives, we're able to have those conversations. But then when it comes to the health aspect of it, especially mental health aspect of it, nothing is said. It's kind of like, okay, no, I don't want anyone to call me crazy. I don't want anyone to say something's wrong with you. So I'm not going to say anything. So oftentimes individuals are suffering in silence. And that's not what you want. Because if you have the open dialogue from the leadership down to, the ushers, you get to have the congregation to feel like, okay, they're actually having that conversation. I don't have a problem opening up about it. Or my mom is dealing with that, or I'm dealing with that. I can have that conversation openly. And promoting the treatment process, encouraging them to be able to say, go in for assessment to make sure everything is okay. If you're feeling this way, go to your doctor first. Speak on your symptoms. If they clear you medically and nothing is wrong, that doctor will more likely say, okay, now let's rule out mental health. So we can send you to the mental health provider for you to get the additional assessment to be able to say, okay, now this could be the issue. Let's assess and treat accordingly. But the conversation has to be had in order for that to happen.
Dr. Doe, I heard you mention in your area of experiences that you work with all levels from children on up to geriatrics. Where do you find the most demand or concern within which generational group? And what are some of the things that they're experiencing in terms of symptoms?
And as I was stating to Dr. Lindsay earlier, symptoms can vary per person, right? Currently, I work with a veteran population, even though I've worked in the past with all, age groups. I do find in society, men don't always open up about physical or mental health, right? Because they're not always given that safe space. Because, of course, society stigma of you're strong, you're the provider, you don't complain, you don't cry, you don't show, so therefore, there's a lot of guys that suffer in silence. And if I were even just to speak on let's just say the veteran population, for example.
Right. Mm-hmm.
You know, you already have the mental aspect to the fact that they're military, so you're supposed to be strong.
Right.
Then now you have someone who is supposed to be presenting as strong because you were entrusted to not only protect your fellow soldiers but the country, and then now you're coming and saying, oh, something is wrong with me. So that mentality already is an issue where I'm not going to go to my doctor and say something is wrong with me because I'm a soldier, I'm strong, I'm not supposed to complain, I got this, I can handle this.
Right.
You know, so taking away their stigma to be able to address it. So generally in society, from what I've observed, and even in my experience of working with various people, I know male population oftentimes, you know, do not always step forward when it comes to dealing with mental health. They, you know, they kind of pull that in the background, especially when you're looking at the suicide rate, right? Oftentimes,
Right.
who are easy to complete suicide? Men. Why? Because they're using the most aggressive way to complete suicide, which oftentimes is with a weapon. Right. Women often use pills or a form of poisoning, which can easily sometimes be reversed if they are caught, you know, in an appropriate time. But once a gun has gone off, it's gone off. There's no reversing that. No. You know, so they're quicker when it comes to ending their lives with suicide. So it's like having these conversations and letting them know, you know, every population, but letting them know that it's a judgment-free zone.
Right. Okay.
Have a safe space to talk about it. What's really wrong, and when we speak about being non-judgmental, it's not just verbally; it's also non-verbal also. Mm-hmm. Because we have the tendency, your body language have the tendency to tell someone you're thinking negative of them, even though you're not verbalizing it. Mm-hmm. Because if a person comes and say, "Oh my God, you know, I've been hearing voices," and your eyebrows kind of go in the upper, they pick up on those things. They pick up on those signals. They may have the conversation in the moment, but walking away, they would say, I saw how she was looking at me. I am never going to talk to her again, because she made me feel like crap telling her that I was hearing voices, you know, or it felt like I saw something you know, they may not see it, they may not interpret it as hallucination, but they're explaining it in the simplest form, right? By stating, I could have sworn I saw something in my room, you know, and instead of listening to say, okay, hey, tell me a little bit more. What do you mean when you say you saw something? Was it a shadow? Did you see a guy sitting there? Is it getting a little bit more in depth so you have a conversation to kind of get a clear understanding. Okay, this person may be experiencing some kind of psychotic, you know, or mental health breakdown here. So let me have that dialogue a little bit more, because then it gets family to also gauge the changes in the individual. You know, you go from very talkative to not talkative at all. So definitely the dialogue is very important.
Okay. Awesome. Very interesting. Our time is just about up here. We just got back on, but our time is just about up, and I do want to respect your time too, Dr. Doe. But as we begin to close out, I think you have a testimony. I think Pastor Vaughn he didn't tell me what the testimony was. He just said you have a testimony. Okay, and also, I was wondering if you could share, as we just talk about mental health in general, what is the importance of self-care practices for maintaining mental wellness? Because I'm sure that as we go through day-to-day experiences, there are different situations that we encounter that we exhibit some of the same symptoms that you would find categorized within this area of mental health. So what can we do, again, to do some self-care practices for maintaining mental health wellness?
Definitely.
And I'm not sure if you want to share I'm not sure.
Stress reduction is one of those things, you know, regulating our emotions, you know, finding an appropriate way to cope when we're dealing with stressors, all of those things, promoting relaxation. Some people use yoga, Pilates, different ways, meditation to be able to calm the mind when they're going through stressors versus sometimes aggressively externalizing your feelings or what's going wrong in your life, all of those things, and then having time with your loved one that are supportive of you, staying out of the toxic environment when you're dealing with challenges already. You want to definitely have a support system that will help you through your journey of self-care and healing, and your mental wellness in general. When it comes to mental health as a whole, right? I would assume my testimony, I have many testimonies, but I would speak to the topic. I grew up in a war-torn country. Originally from Liberia. I was in Liberia when the Civil War took place. I was actually 10 years old at the time. A lot of things that was seen are stuff that most 10-year-olds shouldn't see or experience. And I always said, I thank God for the resilience. This is where the interconnection between spirituality and mental health, the resilience to be able to push past the issues. Something as simple as, because at the time, I didn't know the term PTSD before I got into this field, right? But experiencing it and not realizing what that was. If I am to be transparent, something as simple as a dead deer on the road, I could not stomach the scent because that would trigger my PTSD from everything that occurred during the war. So getting into this field was not only a personal, but it was a passion to help people see past their circumstances, that you can fight through anything regardless of what you're going through, not to give up on yourself. And even if people around you are giving up on you, find the one person that have the faith and trust in you to help you push past it. Connect yourself with environment that help you through that. And with me, prayer was one of those things. My faith has always been strong in any challenges I've gone through in life, because I always say, if it's not God, I don't know how I would have gone through it. And this is where I say some people, their spirituality helped them cope with mental health. And other people, they may have a little bit of nudge to find it because things have gone on with them in the religious community that make them lose hope. So every person is different on how they deal with that. So in my testimony and dealing with that specific aspect of my life, that was the way that I got through it. Continuous prayer, and at the same time, I did seek mental health, because when I was going to get into this field, I told myself, there is no way I can go into a field to tell people how to care for themselves if I don't personally go through the process of making sure I don't have any residual issues that I'm dealing with, because I have to be completely healed of my trauma in order to be able to help someone else go through the process of healing from their trauma. So it was intentional going to look for a therapist, to have that conversation, to make sure I'm not triggered. I don't want to have my patients talking to me about issues they're going through and I'm having issues. You're supposed to be seeking help from me. I shouldn't be having issues and then turn the tables. So in order to do that, I had to make sure I take care. And that was part of my self-care. That was part of the process of what I consider mind cleansing, to be able to get to the place that I am, that I can have the conversation about it and it doesn't bother me anymore. Instead is a testimony to help somebody else heal. Because if a 10-year-old girl can go through war and see some of the most devastating things that I've seen that people in the military have gone through and seen and struggle with, definitely someone else can get through it. And trauma comes in different forms, especially here in the African American community. You have war going on every day in the community. They may call it a hood or whatnot, but people are fighting a battle every single day, and they have to know there's a support system out there for them.
That was excellent. Thank you.
Amen. That's awesome. Thank you. Thank you so much. I was wondering, because, they said we all need to have a therapist, maybe someone that you may only see once or twice a year or weekly or whatever, so that would have that neutral ear, so that we can talk because we're going to all have encounter different stressful situations
Right.
and have
Right.
stressors that cause us to have certain mental health issues. You know,
Yes.
it could be small or minute or grandiose or big. Wow,
Yes.
awesome. Thank you so much,
Thank you.
Dr. Doe.
You're
Come
welcome.
back.
You're welcome.
Dr. Lindsay, I don't know, we have like 10 seconds left. Is there anything that you want to?
We appreciate both Pastor Van and Dr. Doe, and we must have Dr. Doe to come back.
Okay.
I feel this is you gave us some excellent, useful information, but I feel it's a little incomplete. So we need you to come back and smooth it out for us. But
Okay.
we
Just
thank
let
you.
me
We
know.
basically thank you for sharing your time and your experience and expertise with us, because a lot of times, you know, we're thinking about things, but you know, we just can't put a handle. How do I handle this?
Yes.
How do I even approach it? But you gave us some good information.
You're welcome. You're welcome. It's a pleasure. I appreciate the invite. I hope the message is helpful to a lot of the listeners out there, and knowing that there's support, that they can reach out and to not be afraid to do so.
Good. But if I could say one thing, and then I'm going to shut up.
All right. Well, thank you. Thank you again. Thank you, Dr. Lynn. Go ahead.
No, I said just have faith in God. That's the key. Did you hear me? Okay.
Yes, definitely.
All right.
Definitely.
Amen. Well, thank you again, and thank you to our listening audience, and thank you for your patience as we were experiencing some technical difficulties on tonight. But we hope to see you again within about 2 weeks from tonight. Thank you again, Dr. Doe, Dr. Lindsay. If you can hold on 1 second, and thank you again to our listening audience. So we'll see you again the next time.
Next time. Thank you.
Bye-bye.